Hi, my name is Daniel. This is my co-host Omar. Welcome to our show where we explore the fight and fighters. We're not talking about what just happens in the ring or in the cage, but the psychological, the spiritual, and the emotional fights we encounter in our lives.
We interview fighters with the hope to be inspired by the journey and motivate us to double down on our commitments to better our lives. If you have a fight in you or just love a good story, then welcome to the show. Today, we have Demon Monsoon joining us, current street beef fighter, advocate, and warrior. Welcome to Heart in the Fight, Demon Monsoon. Thank you for making time to be here, sir. How you feeling today?
Doing great. Thank you for letting me be with you guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. I know when I think about your name, and we always ask every single fighter about the origins of their name. Some of them, we've got stories where some of them had to make up the name the day of the fight, or it's been given to them, or they had a dream about it, and then they became the name. And so I'm curious, how did you come up with your name?
It's actually a merger of two events. In high school, I was the weatherman. My background is meteorology. And up in Philadelphia, there's a meteorologist who wears a bow tie. He's cool. He's a good dude. Was Glenn Hurricane Schwartz. And my principal said, "We need a nickname for you." And I'm like, I don't know. So they all came up with a list of weather names and said, what rhymes with Mysic? They go, Monsoon. So that followed me all the way till I got the Streetbeefs. And Danny Shaw, Bang Time, and the Wolverine kind of took me under their wing for my first three fights. And it was in my third fight at the very end. It was my first time ever I knocked somebody down. They called the fight after three knockdowns. Daniel and Corey both turned to each other and go, "That's the Demon." And I turned, I'm like, yeah. And then they instantly said Demon Monsoon. And it took Scarface a couple of times to start saying, "Oh, that's Demon Monsoon." He kept saying Monsoon. And people started referring to me as Demon Monsoon. Whenever Daniel would see me, he goes, "There's my demon." And if you look at my relationship with Daniel now, yeah, I'm the product of the original Demon. And that's why that demon mask that everyone sees, that's his. That's actually his mask. But him and Corey named me Demon. And I'm just like, well, I'm known as Monsoon. I'm the whirlwind. Let's do it. So that's how Demon Monsoon kind of came about. It was original nickname from high school because of my passion for weather. And then Daniel and Corey officially named me Demon. And I think since the first time Scarface said it was my October fight, because I had the Mohawk. That was when we introduced the Mohawk, and he says, "That's Demon Monsoon." I'm like,
We know that this Demon Monsoon is really a persona that you sort of take on when you're inside the ring or inside the cage. I've heard you talk about it in interviews, sort of as like it's almost like a switch. Sometimes you're able to turn it on and turn it off.
mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about that. What is that process like for you to, what's the difference between Demon Monsoon and you outside of that character?
There's actually I'll take it off, but a buddy of mine made me a bracelet that says "Remove to unleash the demon." So I always wear those. I wear this now, but outside of the cage, as long as I have my normal, I take my medicine, there's no stress levels. I'm like this. I'm laid back. I'm funny. Occasionally I get nervous. The nervous Jeff comes in. Best describing it is, you watch me on the day of a fight, I go from very nervous. I go from very happy to nervous, back to happy. And then there comes this point where, okay, you're 7 fights in. You're 7 fights away, 6 fights. And I start taking off the bracelets. My hands are already wrapped. I'm in focus mode. And Daniel comes over to me and goes, 1, 2, 1, 2, and starts warming me up. And people are making sure I have water. I have like people around me, because they understand they want to make sure I'm safe. That's a big thing with Streetbeefs. They make sure all the fighters are safe. There's like 3 or 4 people making sure I'm safe, which I love that. Because sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh, have I drank water today? Um, and what happens is the last thing I'll remember, because I blank out, my brain turns off. Demon comes on the moment Daniel puts that mask on me.
Mm-hmm.
Click. And even before that, he'd look at me, he goes, now. And it just switches on, and the whole brain just, and I look over, and there's my opponent. It's like, all right, you're in my house. No, get out. And when he says, get up, demon, click, I go to work. But it is, and then when I come out, like when the fight's over or it gets stopped, whatever happens, it's like they know what to say to me. They'll turn to me, like they'll grab me. As soon as they grab me, I'm like, oh, Daniel, hey, what, did I do good? Because I don't remember what happens in my fights.
Has there ever been a moment in a fight where that switch goes back onto normal, like to who you were prior to the mask coming on? Because we hear that a lot, when we hear sort of fighters experience in the ring, different things can bring them in or out of a fight, right? And so sometimes fighters have a really hard time locking in. Are you always locked into a fight, or have you ever experienced?
I'm always locked in. There was a moment, I would say, I'm trying to figure out which fight it was. No, it was Super Beast. I came back out of it for a split second and was in the corner, and Daniel was me. He's like, you do this for Sandy? You get him now. Click. And all of a sudden, I was snapped. It was like I was focused on Daniel, and Daniel could see it. He said there was that split second. He goes, I turned you back into demon mode. I was like, but it would be like for a hair second. I've had that. I mean, after the fight, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Grab the mask, and I'll start running around. There's pictures of me running around with the mask. I'm having fun with it. And that's what Daniel loves to see. He loves it when I go evil, when I go full demon. And then afterwards, because he sees how much joy I have. It's all the training and the pain, and trust me, there are days where I'm like, damn, I'm too tired. He's like, come on, buddy, one more round. And it's like, okay, buddy. So yeah, but he knows. He keeps me focused he keeps the demon focused.
Well, it's evident that you have a really good relationship with Corey and Daniel. And so how'd you come to meet them in the first place?
That all started April 6th, 2019. My very first Streetbeefs fight. I had driven down to he who should not be named. We won't name the person because he's not with the organization anymore. I had messaged. They got me up there. I met Scarface. And Corey is in my corner and asking people. He wanted to know a little bit about my backstory. They told him about me. And then Corey goes, throw your jab. Well, you listen to this fight. It's one of the – I've watched the fight multiple times just to see where I've been. Daniel's warming up King Leon at this point. After the first round, there's the break. They're getting me ready to go back out there. Daniel comes over, takes over who's calling everything. Tell me what to throw. There you go. And you can hear him say, get him, Jeff. There you go. I come back out of the second round. He took over right then and there. And since then, it's been like a friendship, like a brotherhood. Started coming down here at the end of April of last year. And every chance I got, I mean, it's a 3-hour drive from where I used to live to here. 3 hours all the way down. And I do the weekends. And I mean, I put some serious miles on my car. But I wanted to be down there. Daniel took me to my first amateur fight. We became brothers. The second amateur fight, me and Daniel and Corey, you can see the brotherhood, that tightness. And Corey brought me down to Winchester when I officially moved down here. They look out for me. They make sure I'm okay. And that's how we all met. It was just because that one day, April 6th.
And you say you drove down 3 hours, right? And so where were you coming from?
Wilmington, Delaware is where I live.
And did you grow up there?
Originally from a little small town called Spring City, which is north of Valley Forge. But I was living in Wilmington, Delaware, and that's how I would move down. I every chance I got, I would be down here training, and now I only live like 10 minutes away. I live like 5 minutes away, so I like the change up.
We know. So since we're talking a little bit about the town you grew up, I was watching some videos of you talking about what got you into combat sports, and I know that it all started from you watching boxing with your father. I believe there was a particular match, if I'm not mistaken, it was Gotti versus Morton, right? And it was this fight when your dad turned to you and said, "Hey, you can do this," right? And from there, you ended up finding yourself in front of a punching bag, and things kind of just grew from that point. I wanted to see if you could touch a little bit about, if you can go back to that day as a kid when you're sitting there in front of the television with your pops, as so many of us have done. I mean, I remember growing up in front of the television watching Chavez fights with my father and my uncles, and them drinking, beer and all that kind of stuff. And just the excitement and the energy, the tension in the room, something that I will never forget. Tell us a little bit about that experience, about watching fights with your pops and what you remember from those times.
Growing up, I had to my dad. My dad's my hero, and he said, "Hey, there's a big fight going on." I'm like, "Okay, I'll watch this." And I'm watching this, but I'm just like, "Dad, yo, Gotti's got Ward." And I love Mickey Ward. I'm like, but I also love Gotti. I've watched all Gotti's fights. This is pre-YouTube era, folks. What YouTube like? And just watching that and experiencing it with him. And I turned to him and when I said to him, I said, "Dad," and my dad's like, "You can do this." Okay. And we'd have a punching bag at our house. I'd hit it. And then from then on, we lost him in 03. I went about, I'm just randomly thinking about it. I did some other I would fight people just because I was so mad at the world because of what had happened with my dad. But I still remember him saying, "You could be a boxer." And I mean, there's times I wish he was here now watching this. He'd be laughing his hell. But when I was there watching with Ward and Gotti, he's telling me, "Look how he slips, look how he moves." And he's telling me this stuff. And I'm looking at him like, "Dude, I can do this. I want to be like," and I would work out. We lived on a farm, so I'd go out to the barn and hit hay bales, I'm like 12 or 13 hitting hay bales. I'm like, this is dumb, but I was like, I wanted to do it. And then now, years later, I'm hitting bags and boxing people. I'm just like, but I can still hear that little kid, "Let me do it, let me do it."
Did he have that vision for you as a child? Because it seems like, I would imagine that this wasn't the first time he had thought about you being able to fight or to fight. And so I'm curious why he would say that to you at that very time.
I think because he knew what I was going through. I was bullied as a kid. This is before we understood a lot of stuff, what bullying does to people and what it does to kids. I was held back in first grade, and from that point on, I was the nerd. I was beat up. High school, middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school until my senior year was okay. I mean, I was the one. I met who would be my sister-in-law because she shoved me into a locker. She talked about it. Someone said, "That's your boyfriend's kid brother," and I'm just like, "Hey," and kept walking. I don't know if you ever envisioned this. We also watched WWE. I did pro wrestling before I went into boxing. And let's just say I don't miss pro wrestling. I mean, I miss some of it, but I don't miss it as much. But I don't know if you ever had it from. We never talked about it. I think he wanted me to be able to defend myself. And if you could see it now, he'd just be like, "Dang, that's my boy." So.
Yeah, it must have been hard for him, to know that you were going through a hard time in school. And, as parents, we can't always be with our kids everywhere, especially in school and in these moments when they're, dealing with a lot. I know that we got to talk about it, right? You're someone who very openly talks about being autistic, being on the spectrum, and how this is part of your purpose, almost, I would say, right? I will venture to say this is part of your purpose is to bring awareness to not only folks living with autism, but folks living that are differently abled in general, right? That society doesn't necessarily see a place for them. And so I'm curious, right? When did you know that you were autistic? Was there a moment when somebody told you? Was it a parent, or do you remember actually being like evaluated? Like what, like how, I guess I'm curious, what age were you diagnosed or assessed as autistic? And then when did you come to that awareness? Like, oh, this is something that I'm living with.
Basically, I was in elementary school to take everybody back, 1988, I was in kindergarten, and 89 was elementary school, first grade. They did a series of tests. They held me back. They thought I was a late bloomer. They didn't know what the spectrum was at that point. It wasn't until now, the 2000s, did we understand this. And throughout school, oh, he's just held back. He's different. Let him explore. My mom has told me the story that a teacher has said that if he gets held back, he's going to kill himself. That was the mindset of that late 80s, early 90s. I didn't realize I was until much later, until I was in my 30s. I was actually, a buddy of mine, I was living in I was doing weddings. I was the grunt. I'd set everything up. What does that sound like here? But I would have a set pattern of doing everything. And then we'd go out to eat, set pattern. I had the same routine. And he's just like, and he had worked with special needs kids. And he said, hey, do you have your records? I go, yeah. My school records, they evaluated me my junior year in high school. They said I had learning disability. My college put me down as autistic, and this was when I was in my 20s. I didn't know I was autistic until I was in my 30s. And then I had to get reevaluated a lot because now that we have this knowledge of what the autistic brain is, it's now that, wow, he is worse than what, I hate to use the word worse, but once we realized what I had and my autism was present, and it's like, okay, this is why he is the way he is. And I did for my own. I said, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I seeing stuff differently? Why can't I control my emotions? Why do I have my attacks? When I talk about attacks, I have panic, anxiety, stress attacks that literally cripple my right side. Why am I the way that I am? Basic knowledge a kid wants to know. And, my mom said they had done all these evaluations. And they said, yeah, you could be on there. But they didn't know. It was until now, in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, did we finally realize, oh, he's autistic. I'm like, took it that. And then, but people kept it from me because they didn't know what it would do to me. Now that I know what I have, I'm like, well, how can I can't fix myself. I can't, I got to take medicines. I got to take CBD oil. I got to do all this. I have to live a structured life. Okay, that's my life. And it's hard sometimes. I have a young man, he trains with me. He was in my last fight. He was waving the flag. He never left. He hated being around people. Now he's around people. He loves being in the gym. He loves boxing. And he will come up to me and I said, you get mad, what do? You ground. If you need to hit somebody, you hit me. So when he gets mad, after he gets done He'll walk around, Jeff, boom, bam. I'm like, you got pissed off today, didn't you? He goes, yes, I did. Okay. So it was mid-30s. It was in my 30s. I'm 37 now. But it was early 30s, I knew, and then I took more extent. The testing they do now is more extensive than what they did when they first tested me. So,
yeah, thanks for sharing that. Appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm wondering how has being part of Streetbeefs, right? How has your training as a boxer helped you sort of, live with, I don't even want to say live with, but just navigate sort of the different spaces that you're in? How has these experiences helped you?
It's rebuilt me, basically. After my first Street Beats, I got on a plane and flew to Colorado and fought a kid. Then I flew all by myself. It is what Street Beats has done for me. It saved my life because I was going on a trajectory down. In the current atmosphere I was in, nobody was helping me. I had no help. People didn't want to touch it. They didn't want to deal with it. And I'm trying to deal with it. I'm trying to deal with autism. I'm like, dude, I have it. We all know I have it. It's now in front of us. Let's deal with this. And my friends that were out there didn't want to deal with it. They wanted to be brushing aside. With Streetbeefs, when I train, I'm focused. It brings me into that focus. When Daniel and I get in there, if you guys ever get a chance and someone says the most beautiful thing to watch, all he does is this. And I know what he wants every single moment. When we're fighting, when I'm in that cage, he'll say, and you watch closely, the last fight you can see it, the last few fights you'll see it. Jeff, dig to the body, boom. Jeff, hook, boom. Literally, I'm mimicking every single thing everything he says, I'm doing. And he'll change it up. Like we have code phrases so that people don't realize that I'm so tuned in to him. That, and the other thing is, if my opponent, somebody once said, he's getting tired, Daniel yells it and says, that's the demon. He never gets tired. Get him, Jeff. And you see the overhead right come down. It's like, and you're Daniel, told you. I was like, oh, shoot. But those are the funny moments. But it's Streetbeefs, Sunshine, Scarface, Omar, Esteban, Daniel, Corey, Ref Rob. Everybody in that group has saved my life numerous times, even from people who were trying to get rid of me. Somebody planned to jump me from another organization. They look out for me. My cell phone will go off because the people I pick, what's called the inner circle, they're my closest friends. And if I have a major issue, I'm like, guys, I can't deal with this here. They'll tell me, oh, it's okay. When I'm in the gym, first thing Daniel does, how's my right-hand man? How's my buddy? I'm like, I'm good. He goes, yay or nay? And I'll be like, nee. And like today we were sparring. He's telling me what the game plan is. He organizes it for me. And then sometimes he goes, we're going to throw it out the window, right? I'm like, today we threw it out the window. I was like, and I'm laughing, having a good time, sparring. I was like, yes. So like I said, Streetbeefs, this group and Neutral Corner has saved my life.
I mean, what's it like to have that kind of support? I think about all the fighters that we've interviewed, and every single one of them has said or mentioned a person or a family member or just their family in general have supported them and how key that was to their success. So I'm curious, to have that kind of support on a daily basis, what does that mean to you?
It means everything. Case in point, I'm going to give you, this week is a perfect example of how important this group of folks have been. A lot of y'all know I have a big fight, October 3rd. I'm fighting Killer Kyle. It's the once in a lifetime event. It's cool because we're good friends. He and I are great friends. I love him to death. we just started a new kid at my work who also trains with me. And on his first night at our store, the cops pulled up. There was a whole issue out on the parking lot. I start shaking. I'm having one of my attacks at work. And as soon as I got here, the gym knew something's wrong with Demon. And instantly, they all came together. The inner circle was like, hey, what do we need to help Jeff today? Jeff's having a rough day. Let's help him. And they stopped what they were doing and said, look, we got it. And for that is paramount. Even during this coronavirus, I couldn't see my mom. I wasn't allowed to visit my mom because of the virus. This whole group celebrate birthdays, holidays. It's vital for me that I have this on a daily basis. When I go to the fights, everyone has said it. If you're fighting me, it's like the crowd shifts. It goes where it's all even to, it's our boy. We come on, Demon. And then they start rooting for the other guy. But you can feel the love they have for both. They don't care who wins that fight. Whoever I fight, they don't care who wins it. They love seeing me. They love seeing the two of us fight, because some people will be like, well, I'm not fighting him because he's autistic. So
it sounds like you have home court advantage when you're fighting in Saint's backyard. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you definitely got home court advantage. But no, I'm kidding. I mean, I think that's actually glad you brought up this point about, people not wanting to fight you because you have autism, right? And so I'm wondering, like, what is that like, to have people sort of cast these judgments or even these notions about what you're capable or not capable of. I mean, I would imagine this is something you've had to deal with all of your life. As an adult, how do you deal with that?
I simple. Daniel, I just turned to Daniel. He goes, all right, you don't want it. We'll get him. Christopher Wilmore has shared the story. And I share it with him. I share it all the time with him. When he came up here, I'm in the ring getting pummeled. Like, I'm taking King Leon, Challenge, etc. Like, all these guys are nailing me. And Daniel turns to Face, go hit him. Go look him up. And Face has said, he goes, I was nervous. But he goes, I hit you that one time. You smiled and you hit me right back. And it was like, man, I got it. And I love that. Like, he does, at first it gets people, and I'm teaching with the kids I'm coaching right now. They're learning it because of one of their friends. I said, look, you need to hit him. How am I going to get better? How am I going to get better as a fighter if I'm sparring with you? If I'm in a fight and you don't want to fight me, you got to look at it and be like, yo, he's willing to take the risk. I'm willing to take the risk. Let's do it. We know about the YouTube keyboard warriors. They make all these comments about, well, Jeff Demon fights 0-0 guys, and he's 17-1. I'm like, yeah, those who've ever been to Streetbeefs know the rule. You show up, they match you up based if you have some experience. It's not about what your records are. It's, okay, what's your experience on? Okay, I have a year and almost 2 years now, and I train 7 days a week. I have some experience. I don't care if my dude is 6'4", because I fight everybody now apparently, or 5'5". It's, okay, we're going to fight. We're going to have fun. That's, for me, let me do what I want to do, which is fighting, which I love.
What do you love about fighting?
I guess meeting everybody. It's that, for me, it's to show to everybody, look what somebody who's autistic can do. And to inspire somebody, saying, like I said, little Mikey, I'm gonna put on him for a sec. He's my buddy. He came to 2 Streetbeefs. He finally got to see me fight, and there's a picture on my Facebook where he jumps into my arm. The kid just had a birthday. We celebrated in here for him, but he jumped in my arm, and it's like, dude, I fought for you. That was for you, buddy. And he's just like, there's my coach. There's my best friend. I'm like, And when I see that, when I see, Hell on Wheels, who's in a wheelchair, who's doing that, and it's like, thanks, man. And I have people coming up to me every day saying, "You inspire us." I said, "No, but you inspire me."
Mm.
They're like, "What?" I said, "You inspire me because I don't have my role models are the people in this gym and at Streetbeefs." I said it to all the fighters. They're all inspiration to me. They're my family. If I can't see my family, guess what? I get to see them every day when in the gym or at the yard.
This is your community.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you plan to continue to fight at Streetbeefs? I know you have a 17-1 record, which is pretty extensive when you compare it to every other fighter. And so I'm curious, how long can you go?
I will go as long as this old body can go. I mean, I do. We talked about it once before, me and Coach D, about me turning pro. I want to do one pro fight. That's my ultimate dream. Is my first have a pro fight. The problem is, I got 3 strikes going against me. One, I'm 37, not getting any younger. 2, the commissions, you got to have a certain amount of amateur votes. So now I got to go do that. And 3, old brain, old autism. It's frowned upon because they're like, well, we're letting an autistic. I told him, I said, let me have an exhibition bout. Let me be able to say, hey, I fought a pro fight. I'm going out to Colorado to fight a kid with 10-ounce gloves. That's pro boxing. Okay, we're doing that. But let me just one time. And if I don't get to do it, okay. But I'm going to be 70 years old. They're going to wheel me in a wheelchair. They'll take out my dentures and be like, let's go. As long as Streetbeefs is running, I will be there.
One of the things that you're looking forward to, right, at least like a goal of yours, is to have one professional bout under your belt. And I've heard you reference the Demon Boxing Juniors. Is that correct? And then there's also Demon Boys Boxing, right? Tell us a little bit about that. What is that about? Is that
Demon Boys is the name that Daniel calls his stable. Basically, a stable of fighters, the ones that train religiously. Not like me, 7 days a week, but like 4 or 5. And out of it, we have these young, and that's the Demon Boys. So there's a whole group. If you go on their channel, Demon Boys channel, there's a video that shows who's all the fighters that are part of that stable. Then there's Demon Boys Junior. This was started because 2 of the kids kept coming in, and then we got a 3rd one. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, what do we call ourselves? And they all looked at each other like, what do you mean? I said, well, we're like a group now because I'm coaching them, and it's like I got tired of saying all their names all at the same time. I was like, so if I say Demon Boys Junior, they line up. And I went to Daniel and Corey. I said, hey, can we call these kids Demon Boys Junior? Because I said, we're going to get the next generation ready. And then if they keep going with it, they'll be Demon Boys. They can. And he was like, they're Demon Boys Junior. So we now have that because of 2 kids. And now 2 more. We're up to 4. Jeremiah's 5. So we have 5 or 6, depending on what day. But usually I have 3 or 4 of them. And they're saying they got the brass to whoop your ass. That's what they're 8 years old and they're saying that. I was like, go ahead, guys, do what you want. I'm like, but they get in there. They'll get in there with Leon. They'll get in there with Jive. They'll get in there with fighters. And I'm like, okay. Now, I know the other fighters are toning it down, but you get a 9-year-old with 10-ounce, 12-ounce gloves hitting you, it's you get a little, you don't want to hit them back. It's like, so you just have to tap them a little bit. every now and then I'll go 50% on them. And they're just like, because they're kids. You want them to have fun with it. And they want to go into the amateur fights. I was just talking to them yesterday. Both of the boys want to be amateur fighters. They want to fight at Streetbeefs. And that'll make me proud. I'll just be like, I'm a fighter and a coach.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I would imagine at some point you'll be cornering them too.
Oh, I'm going to be cornering them. I already told them. We took a group of us, went up to Pittsburgh to Steve Cunningham's gym. Steve and I are friends, and they were sparring. And I was in tears and said, "Why?" Someone asked, "Why am I crying?" I said, "My boys are boxing." Then it was my turn to spar. They're all like little ducklings, ding, 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 lined up the ring to watch. And they're like, "Come on, coach!" And they go in with me. The last few fights, my intro, you'll see the Demon Boys juniors right there, and it's like sometimes one's missing, two are missing, but they're always there rooting me on. And I'm just like, that little energy is like, if we're in the second or in the third round, their dad also runs my corner too with Daniel, and I'll hear this, "Yo, your boys are watching you." I'm like, "Okay, you're in my house. You're going to meet Jesus now."
The beautiful part.
That's when you get scared.
Yeah, the beautiful part about this, right, is that you see from your story is that Corey and Daniel invested in you. And then now you're using that same kind of investment to invest in other young people. And so you're seeing the cycle of people, of men investing in young and other men and young boys, so that they have support, they have someone in their corner, someone who can guide them through their life. And I think it's a beautiful thing that what you're doing, but also what Neutral Corner is doing and what all the coaches are doing. And so I just want to hats off to you, man. That's awesome.
And I've told them, I said, if you need help in math, social studies, and science, you come to me. I said, I'll be more than happy to help you. If it's English, yeah, right. Any other, no. And I've told him that. And Coach E has seen it. Whatever he's training me on, they're training that day. And they're just like, of course, it gets a little bit tuned down. Mine's more up there. I bring it down, maybe down a little bit, but they're like, those kids are killers. They're going to be – I can't wait to see them fight in the amateurs. I'm just going to be like, I know how Daniel will feel about me when I fight.
Demon Monsoon, you have a lot going on. It's incredible, and your heart is unquestionable. You are a fighter again, right? You're a coach. You are an advocate and just a pure warrior, man. Of all the things that you are doing right now in your life, what would you say success looks like for you?
Getting up every day and knowing that somebody's being impacted right now by what's going on. If they can look at a video, if they can look at a post, I kind of take the page of so many people. Like I've watched so much television, I've heard so many messages. But if there's a young man who is out there who's struggling, who's like, I don't want to go to school because so and so is bullying me, and they see they can be inspired through stuff happening with me, or they come into the gym and they know, well, he's had a rough day, but at the end of the day, he sees that smile on my face. It just my view of success is I want everyone else to be successful. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to know no matter what you're going through in life, there's always hope. There's always somebody that's right there cheering you on through it all. Most people don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but there is one person, and I know she's going to get on me for it, but I don't care. Miss Sunshine, who co-runs Streetbeefs, she is the biggest blessing next to Daniel, Corey, Scarface, the whole list of them. that whenever something on the day of a fight, she's watching videos, she will make sure I'm safe. She'll be like, hey, what's going on? If the nervous Jeff comes out, she brings that down and she gets the demon activated. I could be having I was having one of my attacks. I was driving and she coordinated everything to get me safe. When I was out in Colorado, she was coordinating everything. I mean, to have that, just that's how I look at it. When for me, success is if you got up in the morning and you were like, I don't want to go to work, and you see one of those quirky pictures or videos of me going, yeah, I'm working all night. I'm going to go to sleep. Then I'm going to get back in the gym. Yay! And you're just like, that crazy fool is doing what he loves. Why am I down on myself?
Mm.
Or that little kid who's like, I don't want to get bullied anymore. And he goes, and he just somehow flips on and he sees, yo, he's autistic. He's fighting. And I say there, right? I said, I'm fighting for those who can't fight.
Mm.
And from my view, success is that. It's like, if I can make somebody's day just a little bit brighter through a word or saying, if somebody texted me and said, yo, you're doing okay, kid, hang in there. I told somebody one time, I said, I could die tomorrow and the world would still go on. And someone said, no, the world would be crying because they lost somebody.
Mm.
I said, I'm not important. And Daniel and all them said, they go, dude, you're very important. I'm like, I said, somebody will replace me. And that's how I look at myself. I just look at myself as I want people to know there's always hope.
Mm.
And I'm living proof of it someday.
Demon Monsoon, I want to ask you, if you had to bottom line, if you had to say in maybe one sentence, right, what would you say to the naysayers out there that say someone with autism, someone with a disability, someone who is not quote unquote like normal, whatever that means? Like if you had to, for all the haters, if you had to say one thing to them, right, what would you say to the naysayers that say that people with autism cannot fight?
Come to the cage. I'll show you what it's like.
Perfect.
That's awesome, man. Your story, you are a true inspiration. And so thank you for your time. So how can people follow your journey, subscribe to your social medias? Where can they find you?
They can go on, number one, onto Demon Monsoon Live, which is now we finally have the channel set at last. They can go on there. There's also the Facebook page that you guys got me through. I still got to update that. I'm working on figuring out how to make that more cooler. Or they friend request me, say, hey, I saw you on the podcast. I want you to, can we talk? I always tell people this. If you message me, 99.9% of the time, this is what I always tell them. I said, if you're messaging between 6 a.m. Eastern and 12 p.m., I'm sleeping. If you give, I'm usually up for like 2 hours, and then I'm at the gym from 2:30 to 7. And I said, but I'm going to get back to you. I always tell people, I said, there's sometimes where I have that window at work where we're dead. I'm like this. Oh, yeah, I got you. Okay, yeah. I mean, I get 4 or 5 text messages a day, so I'm just like, why are you not answering me? I'm like, I'm asleep. But also, like I said, personal Facebook, the Facebook page, or the YouTube channel. There's always going to be content up there. We do take a breather every couple of weeks. This weekend it's going to be a lot of Demon Monsoon Live stuff because of Streetbeefs, and then we're going to Colorado again. 3rd time out west. I'm done after this. Nah, I'm playing a trip out west again. Come on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Your story, like I said, is really inspirational, and I hope it really motivates those to get up, to fight, to make sure that they know they got people in their corners and that they can play a role in someone else's fight as well. So thank you, brother. Appreciate the time. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you were able to find some gems from the interview, because there were tons of them. If you like what you heard, like what you saw, please subscribe to our channel. If you have a little bit of change, please send it to our Patreon page. Until then, dig deep and double down on your commitments to your life.